Hi friends, host Eric here, talking to Spanish people, and I want to make a video about all the excitement that's been going on with a new individual coming around and what it's revealing about the nature of the discursive environment and the nature of some of the conflicts that people have and how people's feelings get in the mix. So Brittany is a new person who's come around here and she self-identifies ENTP, or at least she did at the beginning, and she came in, she rolled in kind of swinging a big dick, so to speak. Probably a little presumptuous, perhaps, about her own rightness over others, I guess. Regardless, there's some sparks flew, and I talked to her by myself on Facebook phone call, and she entered into the room here. She was battling with Audra earlier, or Audra was trying to explain things to her. It's kind of a more of a accurate way of putting it. And she felt very attacked, and I guess the reason is because people disagreed with her self-assessment as an NT, and were arguing either she's NFP or SFP. And that caused a lot of, I guess it's fair to say, emotional friction, emotional impact. You were here. I don't give about what I don't give. What is your assessment of that experience of talking with her, dealing with her, and how the community reacted, what it says about the community, what it says, negatively about it, what it says positively about it? What are your thoughts? You're muted. You're muted. Yeah, there you go. What are your thoughts? You can't hear me, maybe. I don't know.
And everything you said.
All right. Well, what do you think about
me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, I didn't pay attention, so no. I was writing in chat something with the lagging is real. My keyboard doesn't work. I have on-screen keyboard.
I'm asking what you think about the way that the group interacted with Brittany, or Brittany interacted with the group, and what that reveals about the nature of the group or the discursive space, or something like that. Stuff.
Well, she seems. What reveals of the group, it reveals for me that the group wants to be right, and Brittany don't want to be changed. Like, don't want to be influenced, personally. Well, for me.
Well, what I think, to be honest, is that when Brittany went into here, like, she's probably been here a few times before, but I haven't had the pleasure to meet her. I did yesterday. And it seemed like as though she had it all figured out. And I'm not entirely sure that is the correct way to get into this kind of community. And she felt pretty threatened when people started questioning her and took it personal. And that's understandable, because normally people don't do that in like a social life. But what realist people hear, like, even though we discuss different subjects like politics, religion, fucking everything, the main cause of this place is MBTI or socionics and cognitive psychology. And she claimed herself to be an ENTP. She was pretty self-assertive in that sense, even though her actions spoke against it.
Yeah, really.
Her her way to rationalize was frequently based on how she felt about stuff herself in the past and previous experiences. And she seemed to be extremely tied to her ego. And she used the argument that, oh, why are you only attacking me? No, darling, we're not attacking only you. We're attacking fucking everyone who gets in here. Everyone who's new in here, we're attacking. Because the reason why people are in here, one of the prime reasons, is to evolve as persons.
See how if she knows that other people know about her and she's defensive about it, how power in how perceiving how would be that other people perceive her as she sees would be influential.
But that's the thing, because she prioritizes FI over FE. She is not that she doesn't take that much concern about how other people think she is. Instead, she knows what she is deep inside. And I think many people get misinterpret MBTI, that is like, oh, being a thinker is cooler because being a feeler is lame. Like if you watch many of the Facebook groups, that seems to be a general way people frame it. Like, oh, you're ruled by your emotions or stuff like that. That's not even close to reality. That's not how it works. And I think
is like should be good at social math, so like couldn't be totally.
But what people don't consider is it's everything is not black and white. It's on a fucking grayscale. We're all different, even though we prefer different cognitive functions over others. And in her case, she does not prefer TI over FI. And that's extremely evident.
Okay, well, I got a couple comments here. One being, Jacob, while I don't exactly disagree with what you're saying, I would ideally hope that nobody gets attacked when they come in here, but their claims are going to be disputed or addressed. It's not like anybody's going to be allowed to make some random claims.
But
can't distinguish between a maxim and her identity.
But Eric, our community is not ruled by FI DOMs. Most people in here are probably intuitives with either NE or TI at the highest point of their stack. FE is not our primary concern. Truth is.
Okay, but my point is simply to distinguish between the people and the things they say. And while it's true that anybody comes in here and makes a lot of bold claims that seem counter to either other claims they made or claims about which there's broad consensus or data from their behavior, then those claims are going to be attacked as they ought to be. The thing about it is, what's interesting is the way that some individuals are naturally detached or disinterested about arguments to varying degrees. Now, NTPs have a natural affinity to at least express detachment and disinterest when talking about argumentation, and other types don't quite get that separation between something being said conditionally and something being asserted as a belief. So that's, in that regard, this is a TI heavy environment, and people who are either countervaluing TI or it's an insecurity function or it's polar are going to have probably not as happy a time around here as those with TI higher up in the stack, which means INFJs, INTPs, ENTPs, and like ISFJs maybe, and you know, who else comes around here?
Why users don't consider is we don't judge you based on you being an FI DOM. We don't, to be frank, we don't actually care about it. What we want is we want the truth. And personally, I want the truth because I know that if you mistype yourself for the sake of pride or for the sake of you think one type is cooler than another, you will never grow. You will never grow as a person if you don't actually are authentic towards yourself and try to like, okay, this is actually my weaknesses. This is actually what I'm good at, and evolve and learn from that.
Well, yeah, but I like your first. But yeah, what I want to say here is I like your first answer a little bit better, Jacob, when you said we don't actually care. And no, I'm not really trying to help you. What I'm trying to do is create a discursive environment that's actually fair for everybody. In other words, where claims get challenged or whatever. That's my personal effect, my personal take on the thing. Other people utilize the space however they utilize it. Audra seems much more gentle, really, than I typically am, and quite. I felt as though Brittany was in very capable hands. Um, it's a challenge because there's a lot of people who want to chime in on the TI, and not a lot of people who want to chime in on the FI side. So she's gonna feel ganged up on, if nothing else. And there's probably a legitimate reason to feel that way. But regardless, it's not her being ganged up on. It's the claims that she's making and then trying to defend, and then kind of doubling down. It sounds like I wasn't here for most of it, but I was here for a little bit of it this afternoon. And I'll tell you, Kimberly was appalled. That's the only way to put it. She was absolutely appalled. I had been forbidden to go have lunch with Brittany, so I guess I'm not going to do that. Yeah, go ahead, Jacob.
Like to explain the discourse between or the differentiation between TI and FI. For me, as a 7-slot FI user, it's very hard for me to answer a question like, how do you feel about that? I'm like, well, I don't know. And then I come up with logical reasonings to why I should feel in a certain manner. I don't intuitively feel like in that sense. It's a sort of disconnection. And in the same way, it works reverse with ENFPs. They have a hard time to distinguish what's objective from the subjective. And it goes both ways. There are fucking downsides with being an ENTP as well. Like, there's no perfect type.
Right, this is not. That's a good way to put it, Jacob. This is not about throwing eggs at someone who's different. Now, listen, we do have that other room called the egg throwing room, where all we do is bust people's chops for being different in any way. So if you want to get eggs thrown at you, you can go to the egg throwing room. But the thing is, the FI polar thing, what I've discovered is that it's very, very difficult for us to recognize when our feelings are motivating us. That's one of the biggest challenges. It's not that it's just that it's hard to answer the question like, well, what's your preference? What's your personal subjective preference for this? But it's difficult to realize when I'm really being motivated by my feelings, no matter how good my arguments are. And that's a challenge as an ENTP to know that sometimes you are the least objective person in the room, no matter how good your arguments are. That's a tricky fucking line to walk, you know?
Yes. Just to follow through on that statement, I also think that over the course, in the heat of the argument, we are not completely aware of how much emotion we might actually express. We might be insulted or even angry, and we are not even aware of it because we don't think about our emotions during the argument. They're just like gone. We're just completely zoned in on the TI aspects of it. And we might display much more, how should I say it, like hostility than we are actually aware of.
That's true. Audra, let's get you in here. Audra, you go.
What? We're talking about, I mean, I think I usually, I'll admit to it, I track my emotions. Like there's casual debates, but then like things I provoke like earlier, I knew exactly why I wanted to do it. It's like, I wasn't attached to my own argument, but I was attached to, I wanted to slice on the other one because it was hanging out there in front of me. It's like blood in the water. I mean, I was gratified. I know I was gratifying myself. I mean, I'm usually aware. I think that I'm more aware of when I insert emotion, or at least the presence. I exert emotion in an argument. I try to be. Usually
Yeah,
no
but
way.
you're Audra,
Shall
you're
I?
an
And I go, yes, I will.
but Audra, you're also an Enneagram 8. I think that me and Eric are a bit more expressive
Yeah.
about our emotions in debates. We are Enneagram 7s, both of us.
I would agree with that.
Reasonably aware of which manner of ethos, pathos shit that I'm rolling out in my tone, but it has a weak link to what I actually feel. So I'm a little bit better in terms of being aware probably of the rhetorical impact of various tone shifts because of my work as a speech coach. I've been a speech coach as well as a debate coach, but even so, even I tend to do what Jacob just said, which is lose track of my emotions entirely when I'm having an argument of some kind.
Yeah, because we are not sure if it's like our true emotions. Because if I'm in the moment and I'm annoyed by someone's argument because it's so bad, I might appear much more hostile than I really feel I am. And the other person might feel threatened or feel like, oh, you're attacking me, even though that's not my intent.
Audra,
Yeah, I think
let's have last thoughts in this video. Audra, and then anybody else who wants to talk, go ahead.
Okay.
But Audra first. Go ahead, Audra.
yeah.
Brittany,
Like I think that I am intentional. Like I go to a point, you're like, all right, this is to the point I'm annoyed, and I want to rev up the heat, and I go, shall I? Because I know I want it, and then I go, yeah, I will. I don't usually notice afterwards. I make a decision in my head before it goes, because otherwise I'll just leave or choose not to go that place. But which makes me, probably meaner, colder than y'all. I know what I'm doing usually.
Russia.
Lithuania.
Oh, Lithuania. Fine, my bad. Lithuania.
Based on Saint Crypto, your intonation, like, for me, hostile seemed like she sounded. I mean, she sounded much worse. The thing that she sounded much more hostile than all of you, except maybe Eric. But
did I sound hostile?
The only thing that she would be a victim for is because the things she said, that she had the traumas and that she is, have all kind of psychiatric diseases, that sort of stuff. Just wanted to don't consider it.
Just one last thing before we quit with video. Like, when questioned about what you think about stuff, a TI user would not respond, oh, you don't know me. You don't know my story. A TI user would respond, oh, so why do you think that? Why is that?
Respond with, this particular facet makes this thing make sense. They would explain how their story explains the thing. They wouldn't just blame it and not explain it.
Yeah.
They might use it as a point, but they would explain how it's a point.
Okay, so do you think that one last question, I know I said I was going to end it right now, but do you think there's a fair critique that we're not being considerate of people's feelings, or do you think that's not a fair critique?
Define fair or legitimate. It might be a fair critique or a valid critique. I don't know if it is a fair within the context of the platform.
I think that people who enter
community.
Sorry, Audra, I'm interrupting you all the time. I think that people who are entering this place for the sake of understanding and self-improvement better be prepared to face criticism.
Well said. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.